Big Kids Weird Stuff About Nikola Tesla by Arelis A. Diaz. Nikola Tesla, the man who invented the 20th century. This is the story of a man with exceptional intelligence, a man with an imagination that allowed him to develop brilliant ideas with just the power of his mind, a tireless reader capable of memorizing entire books, a genius talented enough to communicate in 8 different languages. This man was a genius of electromagnetism and a pioneer of wireless communications. He was also the real inventor of the radio, the father of hydroelectric energy transmission, and the brightest mind of the past century. His name is Nikola Tesla, a forgotten genius who died alone and impoverished in a hotel room on January 7, 1943. Tesla was born in 1856 in a Serb family who lived in a small village located in the mountainous region of Austro-Hungarian Empire and the current region of Croatia. His father left the military to become a priest of the Orthodox Church. His mother did not receive any formal education, but she was bright. She had an exceptional memory and was a natural inventor herself. Tesla's favorite subject in school was mathematics. To solve a problem, he did not need a board or a piece of paper. Tesla had the remarkable ability to picture in his mind all the necessary steps to solve a given problem. This extraordinary skill puzzled his teachers. He was often suspected of cheating. From an early age, Tesla set up complex mechanical devices with any material available. On the creek, for example, he used to pick beetles and stick them to the blades of propeller, hoping that when the insect moved its wings, it would also move the mill. At 7, he imagined the construction of a track that would be elevated around the equator. He thought if he could get on that track, it would be possible to travel 1,000 miles per hour while the Earth rotated beneath him. The first time Nikola Tesla heard about electricity was on a white, chilly afternoon. Snow had fallen, warm, dry air began to blow in the small village. It was the beginning of 1860, and Tesla was 3 years old. Macaque was sleeping on the boy's lap. Nikola was caressing the fluffy animal with tender care. He loved his cat. Great tiny rays began to burst through the child's hand and the body of the cat. The bustle of uncontrollable sparks not only filled the small house, but also filled the questions in the head of the future inventor. Nikola recalled this time of his childhood in a letter written shortly before his death. He acknowledged that moment as the beginning of his interest in electricity. After that event, the world of Tesla became a huge cat caressed by God with endless sparks dancing on the surface. It happened one day. The cold was drier than ever before. People walking in the snow left a luminous trail behind them, and a snowball was thrown against an obstacle gave a flare of light, like a loaf of sugar cut with a knife. In the dark of the evening, I stroked Macaque's back, and I saw a miracle that made me speechless with amazement. Macaque's back was a sheet of light, and my hand produced a shower of sparks, loud enough to be heard over the house. My father was a very learned man. He had an answer for every question, but this phenomenon was new even to him. "Well," he finally remarked, "this is nothing but electricity, the same thing you see through the trees in the storm." My mother seemed charmed. "Stop playing with this cat," she said. "He might start a fire." But I was thinking abstractly. Is nature a gigantic cat? If so, who strokes its back? It can only be God, I concluded. Here, I was only 3 years old and already philosophizing. Matter is made up of atoms. Atoms contain 3 types of particles: positive, negative, and neutral. Negative particles are called electrons because they like to travel between atoms. This moving electrons create an electrical charge, just like what happened between Macaque and Tesla. When we touch something or someone and feel a zap, it's due to a sudden transfer of different electrical loads between bodies. As a matter of fact, there is electricity running through our bodies constantly. At age 17, Tesla fell ill with cholera. This caused great pain to his parents, who'd already lost their eldest son, Dane, in a riding accident in 1861. After 9 months sick, Tesla received a visit from his father who promised, "If you heal, I will send you to the best engineering school." Miraculously, the young Tesla fully recovered and his dream of studying engineering came true. In 1875, Tesla began his studies of electrical engineering at the University of Graz in Austria. Cholera is an infectious, sometimes fatal disease of the small intestine. It spread from contaminated water and food and causes severe dehydration, vomiting, and diarrhea. Despite his dreams, Tesla would never graduate from college. In his third year of Graz, he dropped out, and on January 1880, when he showed up at the University of Prague, he was late for registration. That year, he continued his studies informally, as a listener on the subjects that were of interest. It was at this time when he discovered that DC motors produce sparks by the action of collectors, a fact that was a limitation for its performance. This discovery convinced Tesla of the need to develop motors and AC generators without the use of collectors. In 1881, he moved to Budapest to work for a telegraph company. There, he managed to become a chief electrician. In 1882, he traveled to Paris to work as an engineer in the Continental Edison Company, one of the companies of the famous inventor Thomas Alva Edison. Edison was the pioneer of direct current, and Tesla wanted to work for him and help him improve power transmission. Since his years at the University of Graz, Tesla had a single question in his mind: how to build an AC motor. One day, Nikola went for a walk with a friend around the park. Suddenly, and while reciting a poem by heart, his mind was flooded with images of different ideas. As quickly as possible, he grabbed a stick, knelt on the ground, and began to draw what was going on in his head. At that precise moment, Tesla figured out how to build an AC motor, a brilliant idea that changed the world. One more time, good fortune accompanied Tesla. His boss, Mr. Charles Batchelor, gave him a recommendation letter to Edison that read, "My dear Edison, I know two great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." In June 1884, with only 4 cents in his pocket and clutching to his letter of recommendation, Nikola Tesla arrived in New York City. Only 2 days after his arrival, Nikola entered the office of his hero, Thomas Alva Edison. Tesla introduced himself, presented his recommendation letter without much waiting, proceeded to explain his ideas about AC to Edison. To his surprise, what he got was a flat refusal. Nikola Tesla was not a good businessman. He failed to understand that his ideas, rather than benefit Edison, were going to ruin him. Instead of becoming partners, Tesla and Edison became rivals. Those were difficult times for the young inventor. Without any money, Tesla had to work digging trenches for Thomas Edison's cables. However, with a great tenacity and an unfailing confidence, Tesla went on to explain his inventions to all the investors he could find. A year after his failed relationship with Edison, the Tesla Electric Company was born. Magnate George Westinghouse joined the young genius to build the first AC motor in history. Together, Tesla and Westinghouse changed the world forever. The motors and AC generators designed by Tesla worked perfectly. Soon, his fame grew and inventions began to be recognized as a less expensive solution for power transmission. New York City was getting covered by cables, and in some neighborhoods, it was difficult to see the sky. On the other hand, Thomas Edison already had a dozen power stations that depended on direct current. Inevitably, Tesla's success threatened his lucrative, but inefficient business. As a consequence, Edison launched a violent campaign to discredit Tesla's technology in 1888. The unfortunate death of the telegraph cable installer provided Edison with the opportunity to declare that such a loss was due to the new power created by Tesla. This was the beginning of the War of Currents. Thomas Edison covered New York City with posters warning of the danger of alternating current. Harold Brown, former employee of Edison, launched a gruesome public demonstration that included the execution of dogs, horses, and even an elephant by the use of AC current. The fact is that electricity is dangerous. Both alternating current and direct current can cause death. But at that time, electricity was new and no one truly understood it yet. Edison's campaign created a sense of general panic around Tesla's electricity. But that soon changed. John Feeks was electrocuted by alternating current on October 11, 1889. Edison was sure he would win the War of Currents, since the public was so afraid of alternating current. However, at the end he lost. Everything changed at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Companies interested in providing lighting for the fair had to submit proposals to win the job. Only 2 companies did it: Westinghouse with Tesla's technology and General Electric, a newly created company that controlled Edison's patents. Westinghouse submitted a budget of half of what General Electric asked, and the project was awarded to them. This event offered Tesla the opportunity of a lifetime. On May 1st, 1893, 100,000 bulbs fed with alternating current lit the dazzling fair, dazzling all visitors. Tesla's ideas had won, and his inventions were destined to illuminate the world. Electricity is a type of energy transmitted by the movement of electrons. The movement of electrons can occur in one direction or in 2 directions along a cable. When the movement is in one direction, it's called direct current. When the movement occurs in 2 directions, it's known as alternating current. This one right here is direct current. See, it's a straight line. Here, that's alternating current, and you can see it's a sine wave. To get electrons to move through power lines, scientists use magnetic fields. At the beginning of the cable, they place the negative charge that pushes electrons away, and at the end of the cable, there's a positive charge that attracts them. This is how Edison's DC works. The problem with this type of power is that electrons lose its force or load when traveling. Therefore, direct current required power stations every half a mile to recharge the cables. Can you imagine your city full of power stations in every street and wires over your head as thick as French bread? That was the future that Thomas Edison was creating with his technology. Nikola Tesla imagined and understood that it was very important to develop another way to transmit electricity, an easier and cleaner way. Tesla knew that alternating current could carry larger amounts of energy to greater distances with thinner cables. When electrons traveled in 2 directions, it can transmit power at high loads or high voltage, and the voltage can be raised or lowered according to their needs. As a result, the power stations became unnecessary, and energy has more strength to travel further. But how did he get it? We know that energy moves through wires thanks to a magnetic field, where the negative side pushes it and the positive side pulls it. What could cause this magnetic field to alternate? That was Tesla's question, and his response came thanks to one of the most revolutionary inventions in the history: the wheel. Tesla's alternating current works using a wheel and 4 magnets. As the wheel rotates, the magnets change position and make the magnetic field change or alternate between positive and negative. The electrons move up and down, and these changes allow great flexibility in how the voltage is transformed during power transmission. That is, we can transmit high voltage power over long distances and change it to low voltage power use in our homes. Thanks to Nikola Tesla and his work with alternating current, the transfer of electricity over long distances became possible. In 1893, the Niagara Falls Power Company hired George Westinghouse to design a system capable of generating AC power using the powers of the falls. 3 years later, in 1896, giant underground conduits and huge turbine generators were built. The Niagara Falls AC system was capable of sending power to the city of Buffalo, 20 miles away. Since childhood, Nikola dreamed about using the Niagara Falls to generate electricity. His success proves that dreams can come true. Nowadays, between 50 and 75% of the Niagara River is used to feed hydroelectric power plants in the United States and Canada. Tesla is best remembered for his extravagant theories and ideas than the contributions he made to our modern lives. After selling his AC patents to Westinghouse, Tesla focused on investigating the strange world of high-voltage electricity. His aim was to provide free energy and to ensure world peace. Tesla mastered this new technology so well that he managed to pass large currents through his body without any side effects. Such tricks gave him the fame of being an eccentric genius. When wireless is perfectly applied to a whole Earth, it will be converted into a huge brain, which in fact it is. All things being particles of real and arithmetic whole, we shall be able to communicate with one another instantly, irrespective of distance. Not only this, but through television and telephony, we shall see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were face to face, despite intervening distances of thousands of miles, and instruments through which we shall be able to do it will be amazingly simple compared with our present telephone. A man will be able to carry one in his own pocket. Nikola Tesla, 1934. Tesla is believed that the free access to electricity would avoid war and make life easier for everyone. His dream was to generate clean energy and transmit it through the ionosphere, the part of the atmosphere that carries the radio waves around the world. Tesla moved to Colorado Springs in 1899. There he began experimenting with wireless transmission of energy. Gigantic thunderbolts were seen to fall down on the inventor's laboratory. Thunderous sounds filled the nights and blackouts became frequent. The people of Colorado Springs began to fear the inventor. They believed that he was playing God. And just after 8 months, Tesla returned to New York. Tesla didn't quit his ideas. Supported by millionaire J.P. Morgan, he began building Wardenclyffe, a giant tower designed to provide global wireless communication. Tesla had been plotting this idea for 10 years. Banker and lawyer James S. Warden gave him enough land to build the tower. J.P. Morgan invested $150,000, and Tesla began the construction of his biggest dream. By 1902, Tesla had moved his entire laboratory there. However, building costs were rising, and soon the money provided by Morgan ended. Without sufficient funds, the activities at the Wardenclyffe had to cease, and all employees were dismissed in 1906. By 1911, it was all abandoned, and the newspaper portrayed Tesla's tower as a millionaire architectural waste. In 1917, the government ordered the tower to be destroyed for the fear that the Germans will use it to guide their submarines. Sometimes Tesla allowed his imagination to run wild. Many of his inventions were impractical for his time, and that was a disadvantage. Undoubtedly, Tesla was a brilliant inventor, but too much ahead of his time, and even our own. Of the 800 inventions originated by Tesla, many have not been applied even until this day. A clear example is the wireless transfer of electricity. Tesla was brilliant, but his rivals discredited him by making him look like a madman. Edison produced ideas that were transformed into useful products, and that was his great merit. Tesla dreamed of ideas difficult to understand and passed for eccentric. Tesla's antisocial habits did not help either. He hated shaking hands, touching hair, jewelry, and had been obsessed with the number 3. He would walk the whole block 3 times before entering a building. Going out to restaurants, he would always ask for 18 napkins to clean his silverware. Tesla spent the day working, ate dinner from exactly 8 to 10 p.m., and never slept more than 2 hours a night, and confessed once that he stayed awake for 84 hours working non-stop on a project. In his later years, he was obsessed with pigeons and spent much of his day at the park feeding them. His notes revealed that he had fallen in love with one of the pigeons he cared for. There was no doubt that Nikola Tesla was a strange man. As his inventions were commercialized and popularized by others, he remained forgotten. At the end of his life, he was completely ruined. On January 1943, he died alone and poor in a hotel room paid by Westinghouse. He was 85 years old. Although there is no current or practical application for Tesla coils, the invention that could be used in the near future to transmit power and information over long distances without cables, Tesla built his largest coil in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It was reported that the device was producing 40-meter-long sparks and could transmit a substantial amount of energy to more than 25 miles away. If you ever go to the museum and get the willies by touching a crystal ball, you're probably playing with a Tesla coil. Even though history realized Marconi as the inventor of the radio, it was Nikola Tesla who actually patented it and made it possible to have radio, television, and even internet. Marconi used 17 Tesla patents allied with Edison in 1901, and he managed to transmit the letter S in Morse code across the Atlantic. Years later, in 1909, Nikola Tesla had to watch Marconi win the Nobel Prize because of his discovery. The complaint was not resolved until several decades later, in 1943, when Tesla and Marconi had already died. Did you know that Tesla invented what can be now considered a primitive helicopter? Tesla's airplane, a vertical takeoff and landing, is what we call a helicopter. It's interesting how Tesla described the apparatus and predicted that the whole future would be a basic tool for industry and commerce. Its creation was not strong enough to call him the invention of the modern helicopter, but he was right about his prediction of the future. The discovery is such as attributed by the Spanish Juan de la Cierva and its autogyro. The end.